Welcome to the On the Slate Movie Podcast. I'm Wesley.
I'm Jason.
And I'm Asher.
And on the slate for today, we will be talking Superman. We'll comment on the new trailer and also recap some recent movie releases. Then we'll finish off the show with our recent recommendation. Let's do it. Well, it's almost Christmas time, the time we're recording this, so Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
And a Happy New Year.
But really, Happy New Year would be more appropriate by the time this comes out.
Mm-hmm.
This is our 6th podcast. We've made it this far. We haven't given up yet. So, you know what they say, once you get to number 6.
It's game over.
I don't think anyone actually says that. But.
My resolve is never ending.
Wow, that's why we keep Jason around. He's got that resolve. Anyway, so there's been a lot of big hits lately at the box office, but then it really just slowed down. So I figured we could just recap some of these big heavy hitters. So Glickit obviously came out just before Thanksgiving, but then it was followed by Moana. And Glickit is a thing, and we're sticking with it. It's a thing.
Jason's shaking his head.
Just like Barbenheimer that came before
it's
it.
not
and Saw Patrol
anything like
as
that.
well.
Saw Patrol.
That's a lesser known one, but Saw Patrol, Saw X, and Paw Patrol came out the same weekend.
Oh my gosh, that's like the worst combo you could do.
Yes.
Yeah, the other movies you can watch together.
These you can't. You can't take little Jimmy to see Saw right after Paw Patrol.
I mean, okay, well you can. It's just not. They'd be frowned upon.
We would have Child Protective Services probably get called on those parents.
Yeah, I mean, hey, Paw Patrol and Saw both were hits, so hey, something worked. Anyway, let's just talk Moana real quick. So, By the way, on our YouTube channel there is a short,
Multiple,
and our Instagram page. It's a reel on Instagram. And we are now doing some shorts, so you can check those out. We reviewed Moana 2 and also Kraven the Hunter, and we have more coming up soon. Probably more that will be released by the time this is released. So check those out. So Moana 2 has now surpassed $700 million worldwide. And that's a massive hit. It had a huge opening of $200+ million.
215, I believe.
Yeah, it was crazy. What that was able to do. Big hit, especially considering it was not even going to be a theatrical release at first. It was supposed to be a multi-episode Disney Plus series.
I mentioned that, by the way.
You did mention
3
that.
podcasts ago. And you questioned me.
And I said, we need to fact check that. And then we did fact check it, and you was indeed correct.
I don't lie.
I think it was just 2 podcasts ago.
Was it just 2? Anyways, point is I don't lie. I've never told a lie.
Okay.
His nose just grew, everyone.
Just wait till we get that video podcast, and then we'll see the nose growing.
Okay.
So, yeah, big success. Moana 2. The movie itself, I watched it, was not the best thing I've ever seen. But, you can release a Disney princess movie, and young girls will show up in droves and just eat that up. So
Yeah. I mean, I didn't really want to see Moana 2 because I didn't even really I've seen the first one and it's all right. It's a good movie. It's just not my kind of movie. So
I really enjoyed the first one. Like that movie. I think it took a couple times to watch it fully for me. Like once I finally saw it all the way through, I was like, this is really good. But I was curious, did you think there was good character development for Maui and Moana, or no?
it really felt like the same movie, again. It's just
Moana, but 2.
Moana has to leave she has to leave the island or whatever they live. Is it Hawaii?
No.
What is it called?
Is it a made-up island?
I don't know. It might be made up. It's probably made up. I don't know. But anyway, she has to leave for some reason. I don't even remember, to be honest.
You just saw this a couple nights ago.
I did. I watched it like a week, 2-3 weeks ago. I don't really remember all the details, but it really felt like just the same movie, just not as good. The songs were I don't know. The performances for the musical numbers, I don't think were as committed. They just felt like, oh, we're just here for a paycheck kind of deal. And they weren't as interesting the way they were written. I don't know. It just was like the diet version of Moana, the first one.
Well, I wonder if it was ever I want to say like reshot, but obviously it's an animated movie where it was re-recorded because the movie had been in production for years. Like I'm pretty sure I first heard about it in like 2020 when it was going to be a direct like miniseries to Disney Plus. And I know they had started recording and animating for it. I guess I'm wondering how much of that was reused. You know, because that means a lot of the voice acting was done at home. Because that's what was going on in 20 and 21. Because people couldn't go into the studio.
Well, maybe they could do a voice acting bit. Because usually with voice acting, you're in kind of like a booth by yourself a lot of times.
Well, but I see like for bigger movies, they usually have the actors together to record their lines.
That's true. That's true for some cases. For some cases, it's not the case. Like, for example, one of the movie recommendations I gave recently, the Rise of the Guardians one.
Yeah.
That I watched the behind the scenes, and a lot of the main characters were doing their lines solo. But this was over the course of one session. And so maybe they just re-recorded for like a behind the scenes type footage, or maybe they were actually recording like actual sessions, but that was one where they were separate. But I have seen some where they are together, which I think is nice because especially for certain characters, if you're going to be together a lot in the animated movie, it would make sense to bring that chemistry in between, the actors.
Yeah. Not really an animated film, but there's a scene of Gandalf, or a behind the scenes shot of Gandalf, really the actor, where he's really just on a green screen set, and he's acting by himself, and he gets frustrated because all the characters around him are CGI.
Yeah, I think I know what you're talking about.
I think that was on The Hobbit, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
And he like goes off and starts slamming the table in front of him or something.
Oh no.
But that just, my point being is like actors work better together.
Yeah.
Not saying voice actors aren't super talented, because they are, and they obviously do a lot of work by themselves, but
they can feed off of one another a lot.
Right.
Yeah.
There's just something that's really hard to replicate, and kudos to those who do. But
Yeah, so that was a massive hit. The reviews not as high as maybe the numbers would indicate, but congrats to Disney, I guess. I guess they needed more money.
Disney was really hurting from that one bad year last year, I guess.
They really did have a bad year last year. 2023 was terrible. Indiana Jones was like horrible in terms of the money that they lost. And the Marvels, all of these just disasters. So this year they've kind of got back on track with Inside Out 2, Deadpool and Wolverine, Moana 2 now. Those are 3 moneymakers for sure. And
which is crazy to think they're all Disney, too, at the same time.
Yeah. And then Wicked also, if we want to backtrack a little bit more, just talk about how Wicked did. Is Wicked Disney?
Wicked?
I think it is.
Yes.
Yeah.
It is, at least the film rights.
So there's another.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, I know Disney had... I know
think
Disney did Oz the Great and Powerful.
They own the film right. Oh, but you know what? The film rights to Wicked is probably different than the Wizard of Oz general rights. However, I'm pretty sure Disney did Wicked. I'm like, we can fact check this like right now, though.
Yes.
Like I said, I do not tell a lie.
Clickety-clack.
No, Wicked was produced by Universal
I've
Studios.
deceived the audience, and for that, I'm sorry.
So we just maybe... I don't know. We'll leave it in. Anyway, Wicked was a big hit, $500 million worldwide as well, and really great audience reception in particular. Cynthia Erivo and Ariana Grande, really, really talented. I mean, I went to see it, and I was really impressed with the movie. It's not like my kind of vibes, I guess. My preferred. Like, not necessarily I don't like musicals, but just like musicals about like, I don't know, The Wizard of Oz are just, I guess, just not really my personal like preference, but I was really impressed just with the costuming, the production design, like all of the sets looked really great. I mean, it was a really well directed like adaptation of like a Broadway musical to the screen. And I think the movie, like being a movie, allowed it to do a lot of things it couldn't do on the stage that I think really helped maybe improve on it. I haven't actually seen the Broadway show, so I can't speak to like if it's better or not, but
Yeah.
I mean, from a production standpoint, absolutely, I could probably say that it is because you're not limited by the stage, and it looks really good.
I was actually kind of surprised about how popular it was. I misjudged how many people actually wanted to see the Broadway come to like the big screen.
Yeah.
Because honestly, like I heard about like the Broadway play, but I didn't think it was like that popular or that big.
Yeah.
You know, the biggest thing I'd ever heard is, Hamilton. Everybody talks about Hamilton.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was kind of I was pleasantly surprised that it did really well.
Yeah. Yeah. I knew Wicked was a pretty big play for Broadway, and it has been, I think, over the years and stuff.
I guess I should really say like how much stock I was personally putting into what a big how much does it matter that something's big on Broadway these days?
Right.
Like when I think of like going to see a play, the only thing I've ever been to is really a ballet, which is like the Nutcracker.
Yeah.
I've never even seen Hamilton, despite how popular it was. It's just like one of those things where it feels like to me like people don't care about Broadway as much, but then clearly they do. Like clearly I'm like wrong.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just that perception I have, I guess.
Yeah. How did Jeff Goldblum do? Because I'm curious, like, did he take his Grandmaster persona from Thor Ragnarok and bring this into Oz, or did he kind of do something fresh for the character?
He didn't have the same like I don't know how to compare it to his Guardians of the Galaxy. I'm trying to, or excuse me, not Guardians, Thor, like you just said. I feel like in Thor, he's more of a like, I think he like commits more to that one. I feel like his casting in Wicked is more of like a, let's just cast a superstar actor and less so like a, powerhouse musician. I mean, I don't think that role demands like the best of the best in terms of singing capabilities. He has one song in it and I'm like, all right, it was okay. Like that was easily like my least favorite musical number of the whole movie. But I mean, I'm never going to complain when I see Jeff Goldblum.
Yeah.
He plays the Wizard of Oz. So,
yeah.
Or wait, is that what it is?
Yeah.
The guy that lives in the Emerald City with the big scary like.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I meant to say. I think I said Oz, but
I was like,
I
is
meant
he
to
the
say
Wizard of Oz, or is like I was thinking of the Wicked Witch. Sorry.
I mean, I thought he was like a really good casting when I saw that. I mean, when I think of
his talking scenes are fine. Like, but the singing scene was a little bit like, all right.
Okay, Jeff Goldblum.
Was his song called Must Go Faster?
I don't know. I don't remember.
There's a joke, Jurassic Park. Remember he's like he like sees the dinosaur in the side mirror. He's like, must go faster. Or he says something like that.
Yeah, something.
He has a lot of great lines in Jurassic Park. His best one is, I can't say in the podcast.
has to refer to a big pile of doo-doo.
We're clean on this podcast, but yeah, anyway.
Watch Jurassic Park.
But I mean, Cynthia Erivo in particular blew me away. Like she was really good as the Wicked Witch.
The Wick.
The Wick. Not John Wick. That would be a crossover right there. But yeah, I think
John Wicked.
Yeah, Ariana Grande was also really great as well. I've never been like a huge like Ariana Grande fan, but she was good. Good casting all around.
Nice.
So Peter Dinklage plays a goat.
Wait a second.
But just his
Wait
voice.
a second.
Just his voice.
Oh, I was over here imagining.
There's a lot of
crazy
crazy stuff I didn't know about the Wizard of Oz like world. But apparently there's like a bunch of talking animal. Like I guess I could have put that together with like the
lion
and stuff. Now that I think about it.
But the monkeys don't talk in the original Wizard of Oz. It's just the human lion and
They explain that in the
scarecrow.
movie though, like how some animals talk but some don't.
Oh.
And it's actually I don't want to like talk too much without spoiling it because it's still pretty fresh of a movie. But anyway.
I was over here like trying to picture like a mashup
Yeah.
of Peter Dinklage and like a goat.
That's what I was imagining, like Peter Dinklage in like a goat costume or something.
No, it's just, it's a
That's just what
CGI goat.
That's just what I think of when I think of like the world of Wizard of Oz is people in costumes.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the costumes and everything, like I said earlier, is really great. But anyway, Gladiator 2 or Glad-2-ator, according to like what it looks like on the trailer logo. They put the two eyes
The
in
Roman
the middle,
numerals.
just like they did with Fant Four Stick, Fantastic Four. Yeah, I saw this movie twice. Once,
Was it worth seeing twice?
Once by myself, once with my brother because he wanted to see it. It was pretty good. I'd say of the three of these movies, I'd say that we've talked about so far, Wicked's probably the best, and then Gladiator 2 is the second, and then Moana. But this one is closing in on $400 million worldwide. It did have a big budget of around $250 million, but I think it's going to be profitable for sure.
Yeah.
Ridley Scott came back after all these years. I feel like that guy's like in his 90s now, or at least like late 80s directing movies.
He's pretty old.
He did the first Gladiator, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and he was old when he did the first Gladiator, so and that was like 20 years ago.
Granddaddiator.
Yeah, Granddaddy. That's so funny. Yeah, I mean, it's getting like pretty okay reviews. I mean, I really liked it. I thought it was a fun action movie.
There's
a
boats.
Roman epic. The storytelling itself was pretty basic. Like, I don't think you're going to be like you're not in this for like the plot necessarily. Not that it's bad, but. It didn't have the same like heart or like character work that the first one did, but it's still like by itself a solid movie, and I don't think it like super relies on the first one, but it does reference it. But like, there's nothing in the movie that I think if you haven't seen the first one, like you wouldn't understand by only watching the second. But
Gotcha. Do you think as someone, like say if you were a part of the team making the movie and like, I don't know if this was the goal, but it seems like the spectacle has been more of the star than the story.
yeah,
And do you think that's okay? Like, do you think it's okay to make a movie knowing that the spectacle is going to be more of the star than the story, and to put more attention on that?
Rule of cool.
yeah. I mean, it depends on what you're going for, like what you prefer in movies. Like, I think the spectacle is definitely ramped up way more than the first one was, and the first one did have a lot. The spectacle is really big. Like, it's like triple the amount the first one had. Like, huge costumes, well, not the size of the costumes, but just like the size of the crowds.
Sumo wrestlers.
It's like a huge cast. There's so many extras and all of this, and just like how great the costumes looked. Especially that. And also, I think they like built their own Coliseum, like actually did that.
That's
That
cool.
Romans.
Yeah. And then there was one scene in particular, which is in the trailer, so it's not a spoiler, where they like fill the Coliseum with water and have like a boat battle on the water. That scene was awesome.
Whoa.
Like, say what you want about the story, but when you watch that, it's just like, this is incredible what they're able to pull off. So,
That's cool.
I mean, it has a passable story. It's like not a bad story. It's like not cringy dialogue or bad characters. Denzel Washington, by the way, plays like the head gladiator, like guy that's in charge of all of them. Every time he's on the screen, he's terrific, and this is no exception. Like a really uneasy character, he makes you feel uneasy, I guess. He's got like, you never know like what his next move is. Like, if there's always something that you suspect that's like he's planning, always like trying to get ahead. So, and I liked I think his character was like the most like detailed and nuanced. The main character by Paul Mescal, I mean, it's fine. It's like, replace him with anyone else, it would have probably been pretty similar. Pedro Pascal was really good in it. I don't know if I love what they did with his character in it, but Yeah, I mean, the cast was great. Connie Nielsen returned as well as, I forget her name, but Maximus's like love interest. So
Wait.
but Maximus is not in the movie.
Sister of the Emperor.
Yeah. Sister of Joaquin Phoenix.
Yeah.
But she was like the new love interest, right? Because his original wife was killed.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
technically.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just
Sorry.
making sure. I'm clarifying.
Yeah. No, you're good.
Did you ever see the movie Fences with
I have
Denzel
not seen
Washington?
that. I've heard it's really good, but
So
I haven't seen
Fences is like, I think, a movie also based on a play.
Mm-hmm.
But Denzel Washington plays the dad in Fences, and
I've seen a lot of clips.
I've seen clips.
Yeah. There's-
Viola Davis in that is
Yeah.
amazing.
there's a few moments in that film that give me similar feelings to what you were talking about. Like, there's moments where you're like, I like his character, but then there's moments that make you feel uneasy. It's like, okay, this father, this husband isn't quite like
Yeah.
he doesn't seem completely stable, and like it makes you feel uneasy.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I can just imagine that dialed up for his character in
Yeah.
Gladiator 2.
And his like lines that he's like are written for him are pretty like basic and standard, but I think like what he's able to do and like elevate the movie because of his really like committed performances. Yeah, I mean that's just something stand out about him. He's like maybe my favorite actor right now, like ever. So
Wow.
Nice.
yeah, I mean
Because of this?
well, not just because of this movie. He for a long time. I mean, he's also just like a respectable person. Like, you know, he's never like causing controversy. You know, he's always making really good movies. You know, it's hard not to like a guy like that. So
Nice. I get you.
definitely the standout. I mean, I could see. I mean, Gladiator 2 is probably going to land some Oscar nominations. Wicked definitely will. But yeah, I mean, may not be the last time we talk about these movies on the podcast. You know, I think that they're very interesting, merit a lot of conversation. But for every good movie, there's some bad movies.
No. I see
You're not talking about Red One, are you?
I might
don't
be
really need to
talking
talk
about Red One.
We don't need to talk about
You know,
Red
Red One wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. I thought Red One was bona fide going to be the worst movie of the year, 0 out of 10 kind of movie, but it's like a 4 out of 10.
Oh, high praises.
Which, by the way, Red One is already on Amazon Prime.
It came out like mid-November, so it's barely been out a month
That
at the time of this recording.
that surprised me, but also it didn't. I was like, we were finding another Christmas movie, and like you open up Amazon Prime, and like Red One is right there, and I'm like, already? Like it feels pretty
Yeah,
soon.
it's still in theaters too, but yeah, movie studios will like release it in for rental and keep it in theaters. It just depends.
Dude, this streaming stuff. Anyways,
But I mean, I don't really.
Down
It's
with the
probably
status
because
quo.
the holiday season. That's probably why they left it in theaters.
yeah.
All those little kids.
I will say there are some
Wanna watch The
cool.
Rock?
Oh, sorry.
I just said want to watch The Rock.
Oh, you know, The Rock is The Rock. It's the same Rock you've always seen. He's actually a little bit. He's like the nice version of Rock, though. He's not like the anti-hero Rock. He's like a wholesome Rock.
Like Tooth Fairy Rock?
He's like if Santa Claus recruited
The Rock.
Black Adam,
Oh.
and Black
Yeah.
Adam grew a heart.
So he plays the leader of ELF or ELF, which I forget what ELF stands for, but
Emergency Landing Fly Zone.
I don't think that was what it was. I think
That
it
would
had
be
something to do.
elves.
It was basically like Santa's like whole operation on the North Pole. It's like this mega city, the
Okay.
North Pole, which is I thought it was an interesting concept what they did with it and like the cool like making present scenes and like the delivering present scene. I thought that was actually pretty cool. There's some cool concepts about Christmas that are new and original.
You know, in Santa
Nice.
Claus 3, Jack Frost turns the North Pole into a big old city, and that was a bad
what
thing.
that's kind of what it reminded
Well,
me of a little
he
bit.
turns it into like a
Like
theme park.
Theme park city mashup.
It's kind of like that, but
But it's not.
it's not like a bad thing. It's not like a. Oh, they're not commenting on capitalism, you know,
Like-
in Red One.
Like they took it as an opportunity to do a really cool world building thing.
Yeah, and they also mix in like other mythological things, like Krampus, his brother, is in it.
Oh.
And like the Christmas Witch or something. I don't know if that's actually a real thing.
So no Viking Santa?
There's no Viking Santa like in Violent Night, but that's a movie
My
that me and
favorite
Jason
origin
saw
story.
a couple of years ago, which maybe that could be my recommendation, but we'll get there. Yeah, I don't know, but I mean, outside of the cool concepts, like the story was so basic. Chris Evans' character, I said this in the short that we're going to upload in a couple days, but
Probably already out by the time this releases.
Yeah, basically most of the lines he has is like just him being surprised at all of these things he didn't know existed.
What?
So he's
The
like,
North
what
Pole?
the heck was that?
Living snowman.
Like
Santa's not real, right, Santa. And then there's like a big giant like
Santa
sentient
Claus.
snowman with a you know, and he like freaks out. Like that's like his whole, that's like all he, you know, he's supposed to be like a super spy that like can track anybody down. So Santa gets kidnapped by the Christmas Witch and they have to find him.
What?
So basically that's the story. Santa's played by J.K. Simmons. And by the way, J.K. Simmons, all he ever says in the movie is like when he's talking to The Rock, he's just like giving like wisdom one-liners, like the themes of the movie. He's basically just stating the themes of the movie in like one-liners. I'm like, this is just...
Does he ever demand photos of Spider-Man?
He does not demand photos of Spider-Man or throw a drum at a Miles Teller. So.
The two movies he's ever been in.
No, he's actually nice in this. I don't think he's cusses a single time. He's just wholesome, but he's also kidnapped and like just stuck in a cell without any lines for most of the movie. So there's that too. The classic.
We hired J.K. Simmons and put him in a box.
And all he's going to do is blatantly tell The Rock the themes of the movie.
He's going to open up fortune cookies.
You know what that reminds me of? When they brought on Donald Glover to film one scene for Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse.
Oh,
Because-
yeah. He's Prowler.
He's the Prowler in another universe, and so like he's in the movie. Prowler's locked up in like
in a box.
and they literally filmed his scene like just in a room, and it was so funny because it was so like it looked so simple the way they filmed it, and like that was all they brought him in for, just that one scene. And he's in a box in the movie.
That's so funny, bro.
Donald Glover in a box. What a novel concept.
Donald Glover in a box. Donald Boxer.
What? Oh.
Wearing gloves.
Donald Glove
Wearing
Boxer.
glove boxers.
There's a pun there somewhere.
I think he's
Sponsored by Fruit of the Loom boxers.
Fruit of the Loom, if you're listening.
cornucopia.
I'm more of a, I don't know. Anyway, that movie had so IMDb said a $350 million budget for Red One.
You know what I could do with $350
If that's the case,
million?
that is stupid. Like, I don't know another word. Now, I also saw other things that said maybe like in the 250 to 300 million.
Oh.
Regardless, that's still ridiculous. So whatever the right statistic there is, that's terrible.
That's a lot of money.
And it's made 175 million worldwide. It's not going to really make much of that. This lost a lot of money for whoever made it. I don't remember, but a disaster. It has a 6.5 fan vote on IMDb, and that leads me to say that I think most people that watch this movie are probably like gonna like mildly enjoy it. Think it's goofy and dumb, but like probably have some fun with it. And that's kind of what I did. I tried to have fun with it. Mm-hmm. There was some funny scenes. The Rock and Chris Evans have some funny jokes, I guess, but I don't know. It was just, it's not like a masterpiece of cinema, It's just, it's it's a movie you watch once and forget about. Yeah. So another disappointment at the box office is The Lord of the Rings: The War of the Rohirrim.
It's only been out like a week though.
So at the time we record this, it's about 10.6. Well, it had a $10.6 million worldwide opening. Oh. So that's its first weekend.
That's pretty bad, though.
So it might make some money, but I think that the more disappointing thing is probably how it's been received. And just, I haven't got to see the movie yet, but
neither have I.
Yeah, it's like a 54 on Metacritic, 6.6 on IMDb. That's just a little bit lower than I was hoping. But one of the...
Is the animation at least good?
It looks good from the trailer.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Like, it looks pretty solid.
So I heard somebody say that this movie was created so New Line Cinema could keep the rights to keep making Lord of the Rings stuff.
This is a thing.
Yeah, that's the thing.
This is a thing.
That's why Fan Four Stick exists.
That's why.
That's why a lot of movies exist.
Yeah, they just have to make a. That's why That's why like Madam Web existed. I remember seeing that. Like all these random Spider-Man properties, Sony has to randomly make movies and include them in it. And speaking of Spider-Man properties,
this is a movie that I don't think deserves that much hate.
Kraven the Hunter. $110 million budget. Not astronomically high, but pretty bad. Not the best budget you want for a movie like this. Yikes. This is being called the worst movie of the year. I've heard some people say the worst movie of all time.
Way overblown.
I'd say that those are dramatic takes. I think those are a little hot takes.
Sounds a bit dramatic.
I'm not trying to say the movie's good. But I'm also not saying it's terrible either. Jason, we went to see it.
We did. It's not a good movie, but let me be clear. Let me be clear. It's not a good movie, but it is a fun movie.
Yeah.
It is not bad either. It's okay. There's like some really like corny lines. The dialogue in the movie, you can't see me, but I'm doing the Vince McMahon. Yeah, I'm not going to elaborate.
the meme, not the bad things that Vince McMahon did. By the way,
Aaron Taylor Johnson, I think, is really good. He's a great actor. I'm a big fan of Aaron Taylor Johnson in general. Mm-hmm. I think he really had fun. You know, what more could you ask from an actor? To be good.
To be good. That's the best moment.
And have fun. He, he gets on all fours and runs around a lot, and it's kind of goofy, but it's really like funny and like man, I want to be doing that. Yeah. He bites a dude's nose off.
He does do that, yeah.
So he's very primal.
Viewer discretion advised, by the way. Kraven Hunter.
I don't know.
Lots of blood.
The movie itself is pretty graphic, but biting someone, that's kind of funny.
I think it's just kind of to say like he's got that animalistic nature to him.
I just think they capture that. And I think
they do.
For the character of Kraven, that's cool. Now, the actual character is like really different from in the comics. He's like more, I must protect nature. Kraven historically is like a dude who like literally like hunts things like for fun.
And he's also a bad guy in the comics, but in this movie he's just straight up like a good guy.
Oh, really?
He's actually straight up protagonist. Like, I guess he kind of kills, so there's like that part to him, but
they kind of hint at like killing is
he doesn't even feel like an anti-hero. He just feels like straight up like a good guy.
There's a side character who's like, I don't know if I agree with all of this, but the bad guy's a super evil rhino dude. So what are you going to do? I don't know. Hit him with a bunch of like bison, which is what happens. Not bison. No, whatever those animals are.
So is it actually rhino, or is it like
it is the rhino?
Is it like someone?
But it's not because rhino is usually a Russian. I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but this guy's a German. If that
I think he was just American.
No, he's German.
Oh, was he German? Maybe the accent was just...
No, he mentioned specifically like he's from Germany or something.
My bad.
But he's meant to portray
he's supposed to be the comic
character Rhino.
Yeah.
Okay. Because the most I've seen from this is the trailer. And like I saw the trailer when I was with you guys when we went to see Bonhoeffer. And there were like a few shots of Rhino briefly towards the end. And I was kind of excited because it looked like a cool depiction of Rhino instead of someone being in like a robot suit, that looks like a rhino. Like this guy is actually anatomically human, but also a rhino. And I was like, that sounds awesome. I feel like that is a really cool way to go.
Rhino was the best character in the movie, in my opinion. I thought he legitimately had fun with what he was doing.
I think he was a good villain. I think the actor was great. He was funny, like legitimately like hilarious.
I just don't see how you can like watch this movie and say it's like the worst movie of all time or the worst movie of the year.
A minor antagonist, the Foreigner, has a really cool power, which doesn't exist in the comics.
Now, his place in the story didn't make that much sense to me. He just kind of like showed up for no reason.
He shows up and he's like, I hate Kraven.
Yeah, like he just like he was randomly like killing people, and I'm like, I get it, you're a bad guy, but like, what's going on here? Like, what's the reasoning you're here at all? I don't know. But then I guess he's like hired by the Rhino or something. Like,
but the rule of cool Wesley, and he was most certainly cool.
he was cool, but yeah, he was. Yeah, but he was not. I mean, not really. Okay, I'll let you have that. He was kind of cool, but but as far as like cool villains, though, it was the Rhino that was. He looked like he was having fun.
I just don't know how you could say this was a terrible movie. Like easily like a 6 for me. For how much fun I had.
I'm not going to give it any higher than a 6. Like I could see
pure quality like a 5.
Like if we're just talking about like storytelling, maybe like a 1 out of 10. But like
at least movies are multiple things. They're not just one thing.
Exactly. There is stuff that you can enjoy in Kraven the Hunter. So
dialogue is awful though. Like literally like, what are you guys talking about? Like exposition nightmare type of terrible dialogue.
It's crazy that Sony pumped out 3 of these things this year.
Yeah, Madam Web, Venom 3.
That's crazy.
And Kraven.
Kraven the Hunter.
They progressively got a little bit better as the year went along.
Good for them.
But it's not hard to get better than Madam Web.
Too bad it didn't save them because they announced that they're done with the Sonyverse or whatever they were calling it.
Oh, they announced it?
I'm pretty sure.
Until they need to release a new movie to keep rights.
Keep rights. Keep ownership.
Well, they have Spider-Man.
They do have Spider-Man. Anyway, speaking of man, that starts with an S. Superman.
Superman, the movie formerly known as Legacy. I said Superman, the movie formerly known as Legacy.
Yeah, it's not Superman Legacy anymore. It's just Superman.
That was a hard title, by the way. Shame it's gone.
Dun, dun, dun.
That was. But I guess like, calling it Superman Legacy maybe just wouldn't make the most sense to like start a whole.
It probably implies something that's not true about the movie.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
But we got a teaser for a teaser this week. And then the actual teaser. And we also got a poster.
Ooh.
So.
And the official, well, I guess the official
30-second
theme.
snippet.
Well, then we got the main theme and the.
Did they release the full
trailer.
thing separate of the trailer?
They released the trailer version of the theme.
Okay.
Because I was listening to it on Spotify today. Ooh. And it sounds official because it was posted. It is official because it was posted by the composer.
Yeah.
Which, real quick, I don't think I'm that familiar with the composer, but I'm liking his work.
Who is it?
Oh, you had to ask.
You can't say. Let
it be known that we are not prepared and don't do our research on this podcast.
No, we do. We do. It's just sometimes
kidding.
Wesley. No, it's not Wesley.
Yeah, sometimes Wesley specifically. Sometimes we can't grab every detail.
Composer is John Murphy.
You beat me to it.
I beat you to it. He did the Suicide Squad, go figure, and the Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3.
Oh, okay.
He's done a lot of superhero stuff, like X-Men as well. So,
guys, where do we start with this?
Oh,
I have. He's
doing 28 Days Later as well, or he did 28 Days Later. Sorry.
So maybe he's getting his big breakout career started in the last decade. So
maybe. But
yeah, where do we start, Asher? I'll let you.
I have so many thoughts to unpack.
What is one thing that you liked about it? The top thing, number one, that you liked about the Superman trailer?
Okay, so the first thing, this isn't the only thing I want to talk about, but the first thing this is what made my eyes get big. And
did they turn to hearts?
Not quite. They just turned to bigger eyes. But we see in the beginning of the teaser trailer that Superman crash lands in a snowy, icy environment, and he's beat up, he's bloody, he's on the ground quivering. We realize he's been in something, he's in a very perilous situation, and the music starts to come in. He's breathing hard. We see some other images of him in New York City and not New York City. Whoa, Metropolis. Sorry. Please don't eat me up, people. We see some other images, and then we cut back to him in the crash landing site, and he whistles. And I did not know what was going to happen, but I was
Before
like,
you say that, spoiler alert for the Superman
spoiler
trailer.
alert for the
If you
teaser
haven't seen
trailer.
it.
Yeah, go watch it
Okay.
real quick. It's not that long.
Okay, no.
He whistles, and I'm like, I don't know what this whistling means, but it's kind of giving me goosebumps right now, and I feel like this is a big deal, and I feel like something really big is about to be happening. And then moments later, Crypto the dog shows up, and I was like,
Asher's a big fan of Crypto.
well, it's just like they're doing something no other live action Superman movie has done yet.
Yeah.
And that's something I really enjoy. Like, I really enjoy seeing things that are put in movies that have yet to be done. Like, yes, we've seen Crypto in a movie already with the animated DC League of Super Pets. That's kind of in its own world, though. But I'm just excited that they're actually pulling stuff from, you know, the Superman lore and having fun with it. At least it looks like that. And I'm not saying this is the first time they're doing it, but this is something that I was really excited about because I was just like, man, that we've yet to see this. And so that's kind of like one of the first things that really got me, I think, excited. There's a lot of other stuff to talk about, but that's one of the first things. Jason has some other thoughts.
What are your
though.
thoughts on Crypto,
I was saying
Jason?
we were talking a little bit before the recording, and as I was saying all of this, I was just looking at Jason like, oh, he's pretty much got
Crypto's
so
a
many
dog.
other thoughts.
I like the trailer. It has things.
Let me be clear.
Let me be clear.
Let me be clear. I like the trailer. It has things. It has things that concern me. Things that I'm not particularly fond of. One of them being what my co-host has so graciously applauded. I will now do the opposite. It's Crypto, the dog. I don't like Crypto, the dog.
Why not? He's a cute dog with superpowers.
I don't disagree with that. I don't think he's a super interesting, quote unquote, character for Superman. I have seen other iterations of Crypto, like in Smallville, and at the very end of Superman and Lois, where he's a regular, normal dog. And I think that's fine. I think the idea of Superman having a dog, a normal dog, is all right, as is for any character that has a dog and the purposes that serves in a story. Mm-hmm. Super dog, though, I don't know.
Super dog.
I get it. I get the idea, the allures, oh, man's best friend, Superman's best friend, who can stop crime with him, I guess. I don't know how it's going to be used in the story. Obviously, from the trailer, he, spoilers again, saves Superman. So clearly he's going to assist quite heavily in some capacity. To me, it's always been goofy. Crypto's always been a goofy thing. And I know I've praised goofiness in the past, but I think for at least the tone of the trailer is showing us, and the tone I think that James Gunn is trying to get with this movie. And I know he's known kind of for having these more goofier films, these goofier ensemble things, but clearly from the trailer and what he's described leading up to this film so far, it's going to be a bit more on the serious side. How much, and I don't feel like Crypto really fits into that up to this point.
I get you.
It's just
Yeah.
a trailer, though.
Yeah.
There's been a ton of trailers I've seen that really do a terrible job of portraying a film.
Maybe Crypto won't even show up.
Maybe
they'll say
that might be worse. You can't just show somebody like that and not have him show up.
It's oh, I'm sorry, who are you talking about?
I'd be extremely happy to be proven wrong. Right? If Crypto's done really well, in 5 months after we've seen the film, and I'm
soaking it in.
I'm just man, Crypto was the best character. You can call me out on it. But for now,
I'm writing this down.
I'm doing another Vince McMahon.
Printing receipt
Now you did say something though about Crypto that I do agree with in a way, and it was with the way they made Crypto, because
the visuals.
the visual effects, because a lot of the shots it seems like it's not
It doesn't look like he's there.
fully a regular dog. There's a lot of animated qualities to the dog that make it seem a little bit uncanny for it being a live action film. Hopefully that could be something they're refining, because I know sometimes we get shots in trailers that are unfinished because it's released, months before the film actually comes out. But it kind of is giving me a similar vibe to certain characters we've seen come to life in live action movies that like Disney has made, like they're made to look real, but they have these certain animated characteristics that make them seem a bit further away from what a real animal would act like.
Yeah. And for context, I said that before we started recording.
Yeah.
But I agree. I think it looked off, but I'm not going to obviously we're 5 months from release right now as of recording, almost exactly 5 months.
No, dude.
No, 6 months.
7 July.
Am I slow? Yeah, I am slow.
July.
7 months. Oh, Jesus. So we're really far away. So I'm not going to hold the trailer looking a little funky. And really that's the only thing that looked funky to me, actually. Everything else, okay. As far as visual effects go, that's the only thing that looked funky. I have some other things that have nothing to do with, little to do with visual effects and more with practical effects. But we can get to those when we get to those.
Yeah.
Crypto was fine. I liked him. I liked what Asher said. I'm not opposed to bringing him in as a new thing, because we haven't seen that live action before. And not to say that we have to force things in just because they haven't done before. But I think it's just going to speak to a very different tone of Superman. And I think that's a big thing that we'll be talking about today. Is the tone of this trailer is very different than what we've seen Superman the last 10, 15 years.
Yeah.
With Henry Cavill and Zack Snyder's take on him, love him or hate him, that's much more darker, almost grounded tone. That's a lot more serious, I think. And not that this movie can't be serious in a lot of its plot, but I think it's just going to have a more lighthearted feel to it. Just knowing who James Gunn is as a director. But yeah, I think it's going to feel different than Henry Cavill in a lot of ways.
I think it's got maybe a few more similar tones to Superman Returns as opposed to The Man of Steel.
A movie I love, by the way.
Yeah,
Or
because
enjoy.
Superman Returns, was a little bit more lighthearted at times.
It was technically a sequel to the original Superman films.
Really?
Yeah.
1 through 4. It's technically supposed to be a continuation of that.
But
A lot of people
that's
didn't
interesting.
notice, or
Well,
maybe they
it's
did at
like
the time,
it's like
but,
new everything.
well, because it's made 20 years after
Yeah.
Superman 4 comes out. But
Interesting.
But
Anyways.
yeah, this new Superman is, James Gunn has already said it's very inspired by the original Superman with Christopher Reeve. That's the main inspiration, I think, as far as the tone of the movie, the vibes of the movie, if you will.
Yeah.
So, and also some certain comic runs All-Star Superman have been brought up. So I think, all of that's to say, I think because of that new mindset for the movie, we're going to get characters like Crypto, these more, fantastical things. I'm interested to see how they address now there's a super dog that's also really powerful and could kill anybody on planet Earth too, just like Superman. I don't know, but maybe you just don't think about it too much.
I feel like if anyone were to kind of help with that introduction, I think James Gunn is a good option because of his experience with Guardians of the Galaxy and that universe having a lot of talking animals in it that are doing things that animals don't usually do, like Rocket Raccoon and Groot. Groot's not an animal, but he's a tree. But similar concept, just characters doing things that their physical host wouldn't really be doing otherwise. Yeah. But I will say for our listeners who aren't really aware, the Superman movie is planned to be the first installment in DC's new line of Universal movies, making one cinematic universe, kind of like how Marvel has been doing. DC was doing that, but they've had some rough patches. So basically they're starting fresh.
Yeah. So.
And to that point, James Gunn has said a lot of things that I like when it comes to his vision for the DCU, as they're calling it. specifically, he mentioned how they're not going to be building up towards a really big villain like Darkseid or Thanos kind of deal. Not saying that they're not going to do Justice League movies in the future, but he definitely is taking the right approach of wanting to go slower with these individual properties and telling their stories.
I think that's healthy.
And I agree. I think it's going to go a long way. I think if that is true and that philosophy holds with the Superman movie coming out, it's going to be successful.
Yeah. From this trailer, like, I'm optimistic about the new Superman movie. The first time I watched it, I was like really excited. It just made me feel, it gave me goosebumps.
Same.
So I think the main reason was the callback to the John Williams theme from the 70s
with electric guitar.
Yeah, it was like this electric guitar with this like drone, these drone tone, like ethereal sounding.
Yeah.
I don't know, strings or something in the background.
Very epic.
Yeah, and it had this like the guitar with playing the Superman theme within like that drone allowed it to like, I don't know, just it had this open like wondrous sound almost.
Dreamlike.
Dreamlike, and like even like the dissonance in the melody, because like if the melody's moving around, the harmony's not always going to match up with the drone, right? Because the drone stays similar. So when it does get dissonant, I don't know, it was just like really, it had an emotional dreamlike feel to it. And I think they nailed that.
Yeah.
The score was maybe one of the better parts of the thing. Now, I don't know how I feel about just like, if the whole score is basically just a 1-to-1 like inspiration from
John Williams, but in electric
like
guitar.
maybe like you could like come up with your own score, and I'm sure they probably do, but you can't read too much into just one teaser trailer that came out 7+ months before the movie.
Yeah.
But we do, because that's this day and age. We just I saw a video that was like 71 Easter eggs found in the...
Yeah.
I'm like, that's ridiculous. That is so many. There's not even like... How do you know?
There's barely 71 seconds.
Like, there's not even 71 things in the trailer. Like, what on earth? But, yeah. Anyway, what else stuck out about the trailer to y'all?
Man, what to choose is the question.
What about,
should we talk about bowl cut Green Lantern?
Bowl cut? Let's talk about the two interesting hairs we see. There's Nathan Fillion in a weird wig.
He's got the bowl cut, just like Guy.
Is it a wig though?
That could be his actual hair.
Bro, commitment.
If it's his actual hair, I'll be impressed. It kind of looked like a wig in the trailer. I'm not going to lie to you.
I don't blame him for wanting to wear a wig.
And David Cornsweat's Clark Kent hair.
Oh, he had the goofy curly hair.
He's got that Gen Z.
He had the doofus like Clark Kent vibe to him though.
I think he can totally capture that, as we've seen before, without
just
with his hair looking
Superman,
more normal.
Really handsome Superman with glasses. I don't know. I like the hair transformation and how that was different from like when he's actually Superman. To me, I liked it, but
to me, Clark Kent's goofy, but he's also he's like mild-mannered, well-kept.
He is, but like he puts on a show. He kind of has to put on a show, kind of like.
I think you can do that and still have. I mean, he works in an office. I don't know. To me, that hair, it just doesn't. And maybe it's David Cornsweat's face. Maybe he's too handsome.
He's too handsome to look goofy,
but it doesn't look right. It looks. And I'm sure it's his real hair, I think, but it looks fake.
It almost looked fake, yeah.
It looks
like,
fake.
I don't know, like, I don't know if that matters that much to me personally. Like,
self-proclaimed non-Superman fan, by the way.
Like, if we're gonna judge a movie by its trailer hairdos, like, I don't know, I don't know where
that's
we
all
are.
we got. That's all we got to go off of right now.
You know what I thought of? Like, I thought of. Like, it'd be so funny if The Office came back and did another episode, but it's like we have a new employee and it's Clark Kent. And they're like, they all get their interviews like, yeah, he's totally Superman.
That'd actually be hilarious. Hold on. Asher, you're onto something here.
Wouldn't it? That would be so funny.
What's James Gunn's email?
And like Dwight is like the only one who's not catching on. He's like, no, he can't be Superman. There's too much. That's
Superman
not.
doesn't wear glasses.
Yeah. And then Jim's like he's like playing into it. So like, oh yeah, I don't believe he's Superman either. He's like, but he's like, yeah, he's totally Superman.
Yeah, it does the cutaway.
yeah. Guys, that'd be so funny. No, I brought up Green Lantern just because I actually didn't recognize him as Green Lantern the first time I watched the trailer. I was like, okay, guy with green laser, cool. But then I watched it again. I was like, oh, wait a second. That's a Green Lantern. And I was like, okay, this is a little bit of a different take of a Green Lantern character. So
it's Guy Gardner.
Oh, is it?
So it's not Hal Jordan or John Stewart.
Which
Okay.
those
Who are the
two,
popular ones?
Those two have been cast. There's going to be a
show.
HBO Max series, or Max, not HBO Max, a Max series called, I think it's called Lanterns.
Okay.
Which
So-
I'm
Okay.
excited for. I'm a Green Lantern
Yeah.
appreciator, not a
Yeah.
fan, appreciator.
I just thought I thought it was kind of fun because like he had like the way his hairdo was and everything, which props to them because I didn't notice it was Nathan Fillion until you guys said it.
To me, it was the opposite. I was like, that's Nathan Fillion.
But he had like a 70s 80s aesthetic to his face, and I was like,
Yeah.
okay, that's kind of fun. You know, they're just
I like the casting.
There
I
was a
like,
shot of him shooting a little green beam of.
it looks like he might have been like putting up a
Whatever.
wall almost. Like a green
yeah,
wall.
because there was like that angry mob outside.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And we got the Lex Luthor shots. He's bald. He's bald
Dude,
in this one. He's not.
slick.
He doesn't
He
have
looks
long hair like he did
great.
last time.
slick Lex Luthor.
He looks great, bro. I'm a big Lex fan.
Nicholas Holt's a good actor. And I'm
He
excited
is.
to watch him in Nosferatu here in a couple days.
Yeah, I think he's going to be a good Lex Luthor.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's going to nail it. I don't know how much we're going to get of him in the movie because the movie's got a lot of people, but in Superman.
Yeah.
But I'm salivating.
There's not that much in him. All he does is look at the camera
And he holds a gun,
and he holds a gun, and then there's like a Luthor Corp
which looks awesome.
picture. So he's a big deal in Metropolis. I think this is, yeah, like we said earlier, this isn't really an origin story. Did I say that earlier on the pod? Maybe we talked about that.
I think
before.
you just said it beforehand.
We said it before we started recording. So yeah, this is not going to be an origin story. So I think these characters will already be established in the world. So,
Which I'm really happy about. Like,
So-
I'm really happy that this is going into a world where things already exist.
Mm-hmm.
Because given the property and given DC, it's like
We know Superman.
we know
Yeah.
Superman and this world is already so vast. Like, let's just hop into it. Like, let's put this audience in this world that just feels so alive, you know?
Yeah. And there is the thing where people are saying, like, now we're talking about all these characters. We also saw Hawk Girl, by the way, briefly.
Hawk Girl.
Metamorpho.
And Metamorpho and Mr. Terrific. I'm sure there's some others too. And there's a lot of characters in this movie. And I've seen people raise that as a concern. And I've heard somewhere, this is my generic research that is basically just me remembering something sometime on the internet. So take it with a grain of salt. But
And Pepper. Sorry.
yeah, sure. Pepper. And so apparently Superman represents like a new kind of superhero that's built on, or at least like a return to like what people want superheroes to be. And then all of these other superheroes are like wearing the same costume.
I noticed that.
So I think they're like a super team,
Yeah.
but I don't know if they're
Justice
like,
Society of America, perhaps?
yeah, something like that. Justice Society of America. And I heard that like they are just like almost like corporate sellouts. Like they do everything that somebody tells them. They're not really motivated by like actually helping people. They're more motivated by like this is just their job. And Superman's like apparently the difference to that. And my prediction is that these side superheroes I don't really think are going to be in the movie very much.
If that's the direction,
That's very.
I think that's going to be an integral part
very
of the
interesting.
plot and of what Superman's character will be. And that's my hope because I don't think any of us want another like superhero team up by James Gunn. I mean, maybe eventually another one, but we've already seen Suicide Squad, Guardians of the Galaxy, Peacemaker, and now the Creature Commandos. So like that's 4 of like pretty much the same tone of show or movie. You know, I don't think we're going to get that with this. I think we're going to get a Superman who's trying to like, I think this is going to be really like obviously about Superman, but I don't think it's going to be distracted at all. Like I really think like he is going to be almost like not necessarily their enemy of those like superhero team, but I think he's going to
But there's conflict there.
I think he's going to try to call them to something better and like represent something new that people want.
Bigger.
And I think it's going to be ultimately about him and Lois Lane and Lex. I really think those 3 are going to be the core trio here. And maybe the 4th one in Crypto, of course. But
What?
anyway, that's my theory and my hope.
I would be very interested in
I
seeing
subscribe
that.
to your hope in theory.
Now, is Brainiac going to be in this at all?
I don't think so.
Because I thought Brainiac was going to be a part of this story.
He's always one of the Justice League big bads, but I don't know if he's in this one. I could be wrong.
So
Well, there's a good version of Brainiac too.
so
But
can
he's usually from the future.
so can anyone tell me what the big green purple?
That's Metamorpho.
Oh,
But what was the big monster shooting fire? I don't know what
Okay.
that is.
Bog standard kaiju.
so I have a thought about that, and it's kind of similar to what you're saying, Jason. So I'm thinking that maybe this random monster, which looks really good, by the way, like in terms of photorealism and scale and stuff. There's that wide shot of him blowing fire at Superman with the building behind him. That shot, like, very well done CGI visual effects.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking, like, what if this is kind of like the opening scene of the movie? Like, we're introduced into, like, there's already mayhem in Metropolis. Superman's, you know, coming in. Maybe those other characters like Green Lantern and Hawkgirl are coming in to try to, like, do their duty of stop it as well. Like, almost kind of another day at the office in a sense. And it looks like maybe that destruction causes some of this angry mob situation and then leads into maybe some of these other shots and then kind of maybe sets the tone for the rest of the film.
I could see that happening.
Yeah, because I don't see that monster being like a main pivotal character for the story yet.
I mean, no, and also seeing like some of other James Gunn's stuff, like I wouldn't be surprised if like some of these heroes like might even like die early on in the movie because I mean he's done that with the Suicide Squad and like also I've been watching the Creature Commandos and there's also been like key character deaths in that. Spoiler. I won't say which ones, but yeah, it's just like I don't know. Maybe that could be a part of it. Maybe like Guy Gardner Green Lantern's like a cameo and like gets blown up by a monster or something. I don't know. It's just theories.
Even after, well, like I don't want to say like James Gunn is doing similar things to his other movies, but there is a similar scene in Guardians of the Galaxy 2 where the movie opens up with them fighting like that big octopus alien.
Yeah, that's true.
And it kind of is like not super crucial to the main storyline, but it kind of is a way to get the film going
It's
and
a hook
set the
and-
pace. Yeah. So I'm not saying James Gunn is going to like repeat himself, but you know, it looks like it could be something like that, you know.
Yeah. As long as they keep those 3 characters at the heart, you know. Superman, Lois, and Lex. Like,
Lex.
that's what I want to see. I want to see a personal story. I want to see some good character growth. I don't want a CGI'd off mustache.
Thank you, Joss Whedon.
I don't know. But one more thing I want to talk about, and we can also talk about other things too.
Oh, we can definitely talk about more.
So I noticed I really liked the cinematography and the choices of like there's like some wide angle shots. There were some I like the scene of like the shot like descending and almost like a circular motion on him as he's like as he falls into the ice at the beginning. How like the camera descends on him. That looked really cool. I think that helped him feel like he was more of like a, you know, he's a beatable guy. He's not invincible. and also like the close-ups on his face. I don't know. I think that James Gunn is doing some pretty good stuff with the camera. But one thing I noticed, which Asher, you're our resident filmmaker here, the colors seemed like really like bright, almost like very blue, very red. I'm like, oh, Superman. But
yeah,
what did y'all think about that? And like, why am I weird for seeing that? Or is that an actual thing that I saw?
No, I don't. I would definitely want to say you're weird for seeing that, because I saw some similar notes of what you're hitting on, where certain shots looked very high contrast, especially like in hard lighting. Like we see some of the shots of him on the Metropolis sidewalk, and like that was an example of a very high contrast shot, but still filmed technically well. The way they just colored it was very high contrasted. They wanted, I think, a lot of things to pop. And then also with the grading, I did kind of notice also a little bit of a bluish tone added in the grade, but not a lot to take away from like the actual color accuracy, you know?
Yeah.
Honestly, I don't have like a lot of thoughts on it or like explanations or answers. It might just be the way they're wanting to take the coloring. Maybe they're just wanting it to be very poppy, very contrasted, and have a lot of depth, because even in the shot where Superman saves the girl in slow motion with that explosion behind her.
Great shot, by the way.
Great shot.
Yeah.
There's a lot of pop and contrast there as well. That's another daylight shot, basically. And yeah, so it could just be, you know, a creative decision that they're wanting to go with. And yeah, I mean, when it comes to, there's color correction, there's color grading. And so like color correction basically starts with you putting color back into the film, because a lot of times these days people are recording on, especially on higher films in cinema cameras, like you're recording footage and it essentially looks washed out originally, but that's because it's basically being recorded in a way where it's capturing a lot of data so that you can then manipulate it in post. And then so like you color correct it, you bring the color back in, then you can add a grade on top. And that's a little bit more for creative purposes, and maybe also to help motivate the type of tone you're wanting to set in the film.
Yeah.
But yeah, in terms of the cinematography as a whole, fun fact, this is actually the same cinematographer that was on Guardians of the Galaxy 3. And so he's already worked with James Gunn, which is interesting.
Which there was one great shot in Guardians 3, the actual whole opening scene.
There's a lot of great shots in that movie.
Well, I guess from what I can remember, I saw the movie one time. But yeah, the opening scene with Rocket as he's like walking through the town.
Nowhere.
It's all filmed in like one take as Radiohead's Creep is playing over it.
Yeah.
I don't know. I thought that was a really good shot. Like what they were able to do, pull it off. So
yeah, because
James Gunn was like one of like maybe two directors in all of the MCU that was actually allowed to like direct a movie with a unique style. So you know, I maybe that's, I don't know. Yeah, maybe bringing his cinematographer on board. I like that.
Which it's interesting because I saw a few shots in the trailer for Superman, and I was like, that is kind of giving me a similar feel to Guardians of the Galaxy 3 for some reason. Like the camera lenses they chose and the camera movement and positioning they chose for certain shots, I was like, this feels like a very similar approach to some of what they did in, you know, Guardians of the Galaxy 3. And so I looked it up. I was like, oh, it's the same guy. And his name, just for credit, his name is Henry Braham, or Bram. Henry Braham. So yeah, it's cool seeing basically a cinematographer, you know, do another movie with a director. Basically, it's telling me maybe they had a good relationship and they wanted to continue.
Continuity is important. But yeah, I think overall I'm excited. I think the movie as far as like your question regarding the color, is like really leaning into the more fantastical kind of aspect of the DC universe. Like even like LexCorp or Luthor Corp.
Yeah.
It's LexCorp in some other continuities. The Luthor Corp tower looks very like fantasy future-y.
Yeah.
And then leaning more like technocratic, I guess, for his specific building. But Metropolis as a whole, just the way it's colored, like definitely that scene where he saves the kid and those pipes go around him. Looks great. But it also the way the way it's graded really feels like a fantasy. Not quite a fantasy, but like it's dipping into it.
Yeah.
I like the color of his suit.
Yeah.
The red drawers are back. The red underpants, overpants.
You know what?
They're kind of shorts. Like they have a little bit of a leg to them.
Apparently that was Corn Sweat's idea.
To do the shorts.
I could take him or leave him, but I like it when the actors do things that they want with their costumes.
Which the cast and crew has really talked up David Corn Sweat and his performance. So
I think he's going to be
maybe
great.
They're biased, but also like I don't know.
They're definitely biased, but I think
a lot of times we think of superhero movies as the whole and the spectacle, but like getting like a really strong lead performance is not something you always see, you know? Yeah. So I think that would be great to have like a really great like main character, lead actor, you know, just kill it and crush it. And, you know, we've seen that in the past, like Robert Downey Jr., you know, and Iron Man particularly. But like in the MCU, a lot of it's like they find like serviceable actors, and even in DC, like like I liked Henry Cavill, but I wish they would let him act more. I wish they would let him like, other than Man of Steel, I don't think he really gets much chances to shine.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm a huge Superman fan, as if anyone's listened to earlier episodes of the podcast know. Like I'm in love with Superman and Lois, which just ended.
I watched the ending scene without having seen a single
way to do yourself
contextual
a disservice.
episode at all. I just watched the last scene in the show
where he's like old,
and it was still sad.
Or the one where he was in. Was it the one he's in like heaven?
Yeah, it was some weird like
spoilers.
He kind of went to heaven.
Superman meets Jesus.
This show is not overtly religious, but the themes align with my own beliefs, if that makes sense. But basically, I'm a huge Superman fan.
Yeah.
I think James Gunn might be taking some notes from Superman and Lois. For context, that is a show about Superman way past his origin. I think he's been at it for like 20-something years at this point in the show, like when it starts. So, a seasoned Superman. So, I'm excited. Yeah. I'm excited. I'm apprehensive about some things, but I think they have what they need to nail it on the head, and I'm hoping they do that.
Yeah, it's going to be an important movie to get right. So,
otherwise,
like we said earlier, it's just if they don't get this one right, the DCU could be in limbo. You know, we got Batman maybe coming a couple years. The Superman or the Supergirl,
Woman of Tomorrow.
That starts filming in January. So next month they're starting to film that movie.
Is this supposed to be another movie in the new DCE?
It'll be within.
It's going to be the second major movie released.
Okay.
Peacemaker 2 season 2 just finished filming. The Creature Commandos just released on HBO Max. Not all the episodes are out yet, but yeah. And then there's a Batman coming in a few years. There's also the Matt Reeves Batman 2 that's coming out maybe the same year as the other Batman. We don't really know yet.
What? That'd be odd.
Batman.
People are going to say that's going to be confusing, but like
not confusing.
If you're confused about it, I think it's your fault.
Yeah,
you know, like,
it's not going to be confusing. It'd just be weird to compete with yourself.
Yeah,
just so directly.
So anyway, and there's also a Lantern show. There's a Wonder Woman show. It's not going to be a movie. I disagree with that. I think they should do a movie for Wonder Woman. I think if I were James Gunn, I would be like, you make a Superman movie, you make a Batman movie, and you make a Wonder Woman movie.
Dude,
Wonder Woman and Wonder
Honestly,
Man.
the podcast gets canceled.
Give me the Flash, please. Give me a good Flash movie.
Yeah, I would be down for that too. A good Flash movie.
same
Flash
here.
hasn't even been announced in this DCU,
Which makes me sad.
We got time.
We
though.
have random Mr. Terrific announced, but we don't have the Flash.
Like, Mr.
But again, I
Terrific's
think
great.
that plays into like all these lesser
He's not
superheroes
great.
that are actually
He's terrific.
Oh, my bad. He's terrific. Mr.
Wow,
Terrific.
that was hilarious, Asher.
It was.
Good.
You can hear me laughing.
Anyway, we've talked a lot about Superman,
We have.
and we'll keep talking about it. Next July is going to be our Superman episode, so we're going to deep dive Man of Steel, I think.
The summer of super.
And
Super summer.
we're actually going to do like what, 2 deep dives that month? Is that what we said?
That's kind of, I guess, the rough plan right now.
Because we're all going to go see Superman in the theaters together.
We're
then
going
gonna
to
talk
wear
about-
Superman suits. We didn't talk about that yet.
Well, that's what Asher just put on us right now.
Or actually, I can dress up as Crypto. And
What? But the prelude is Man of Steel.
Yeah, we're going to talk about Man of Steel because we all have opinions on it. So
we do.
We all think
that'll
it's a
be the
great
first
movie,
like maybe
unless one
mad
of us-
disagreement episode we ever have.
Wesley's going to
So
find
stay
out that he
tuned.
actually loves it.
So anyway, just a sneak peek for next podcast, news podcast, I should say. We're going to be reviewing how movies like Sonic 3 and Mufasa and Nosferatu and this movie about Bob Dylan called A Complete Unknown that I kind of want to see.
Is Paul Atreides in it?
No. Well, okay, the actor for him, yes.
Timothy Chalamet.
And yeah, and just some movies coming out in January. Not a lot, by the way. January is always a year where there's just not a whole lot of good quality stuff that comes out. I don't know why it's like that. I guess people don't like to go to the movies in January, but I would want to go if there was like good movies out in January. But anyway,
Everyone spent their money.
we'll keep an eye on September 5th, not September 5. It's just the number 5 in the title, but I was corrected before we started filming or recording that it's September 5th. And that's about the Munich hostage situation at the Olympics back in the 70s or 80s. And then Dogman, which is apparently a popular like kids comic or something.
I
Spin-off
guess so.
of,
I've never heard of it.
It
Spin-off
reminded me
of
of
Captain Underpants.
That's what it reminded me of, that same style.
Same, I guess, author of those books.
Yeah,
I
it's
guess,
like
of
they
the movie.
surgically put a dog and a man together, which sounds really morbid and could probably be some sort of like body horror movie or something.
Yeah.
No, but it's wholesome. It's Dogman.
But this is just Dogman. It's wholesome for kids. So
for
and,
children.
and the doctors are totally not grilled for doing this in the movie.
yeah, you know.
imagine,
Yeah, so you know,
imagine a different tone.
In the trailer, like Dogman, the dog before they are Dogman, the dog and the man, like they die in the most
They, like,
just
blow up,
cliche
right?
way because they're talking about which wire should I cut on this bomb to keep it
Oh,
from
yeah.
going off.
and the
I'm
dog
like,
just barks or something.
yeah, and I'm
'Cause
just
he's
like, really,
colorblind.
like, really, is this? Oh yeah, he's colorblind.
I didn't even think about that. I don't know if the movie thought about that either.
Well, I thought of that.
Jason thought about that.
I'm just like, is this really what we're spending resources on? Just like,
Dogman the movie.
Okay, guys. So we
It's
have
coming
a
out
dog
in January. Don't expect too
and
much.
a man, and they blow up with a bomb.
Yeah.
And then we sew the head of the dog.
You know me. I'll probably go watch it. So have fun with that, Wesley.
I'll dress up as Crypto again because he's a dog.
So that's all.
You'll be a dog man.
Dogman. And usually there's like a terrible horror movie that comes out in January. I looked at the entire movie release date on IMDb, and there was basically like only 2 movies that I had even heard of coming out in January. So
Wow.
anyway. So to close out our show, we're going to talk about our recommendations of stuff we've been watching or have watched before that we would recommend to the listener.
Yeah.
So, Jason, I'm looking at you right now, so you can go first.
Look into my soul. Yeah, so I'm recommending both a show that exists and a show that's actively being released, Dexter, and Dexter Original Sin, which is the newer show that's actually releasing right now. So Dexter is a show really near and dear to me. I watched it, I think, for the first time when I was like 17 in high school. For those who don't know, it's about a serial killer who also
Viewer discretion advised.
he hunts other killers that slip through the system, sort of. It's 8 seasons, technically 9, because they released a sequel miniseries back in like 2022. That kind of, because the ending to the original show wasn't well liked, so they did it a second time, which also isn't really good. But aside from that, it's a really interesting show just about kind of exploring this idea about someone who's kind of having to route their urges into something that's slightly more positive, if you can put it that way. It's obviously not a good thing. But it's this really interesting show, kind of like you're kind of rooting for this guy who is really a terrible person. Because he's obviously set up as the protagonist, but like kind of as the show goes on, and they don't shy from it, where he just like kind of like ruins everything. Like he actively causes more harm than good, despite this belief that what he's doing is a net positive at the end of the day. But in reality, the world's probably better off without him. And you kind of explore that as the show goes on. And then, with the show that's airing right now, Original Sin, kind of goes back to a little bit more of his origins, because they don't cover that as much in the show, the original run. They mention it, they talk about it, but they don't actually show you how he got to this point that he's at in the show. And I've only seen the first episode because it released last Friday, episode 2, which I'm going to watch tonight. But I was really impressed by it. I thought that they were going to retcon. I was worried that they would retcon things or change details that I thought were really crucial about the character by doing this prequel series. But from the first episode alone, they seem to have respected a lot of the original content of the show. And the original actor of Dexter, who obviously can't play his younger self because he's much older now, is narrating the show, the newer one. So, and they brought back a lot of the original music, but it's remixed to obviously change things up a bit, which I really appreciated because its other sequel series, which is just the 9th season essentially of the original show, doesn't have any of the original music at all, except for one scene in a episode in the middle of the season. They had a whole new soundtrack for that, which was fine, but it didn't fit the vibe of the character, which I think is what they've done really well this time around. So as someone who's like really appreciative of the property, I feel like they're finally handling it correctly for the first time in well over a decade, because the original show ended in like 2013. And then there's the 2022 sequel series. And now, finally, in 2024, going into 25, they're like handling the property like with care. But yeah.
Epic.
It's an awesome show for adults only, I guess. But
yeah,
if you really like interesting gray morals, it's a must watch.
Interesting gray morals.
Yeah. How else to put it? It's just really cool.
All right.
You want to go next, Asher?
Sure. So my movie is a Christmas movie because at the time of this recording, that's pretty much what I'm watching right now. It's the Christmas season.
Just to get you ready for next year.
5 days away for us.
Yeah, 5 days away. And for those listening, if you enjoy bringing that Christmas spirit into January, then this is for you. But mine is the first Santa Claus with Tim Allen.
Yep.
Really
certified
solid
classic.
Really solid movie. Yeah, certified classic. As a child, I actually grew up enjoying Santa Claus 2 more than the other two. But with that said, Santa Claus 3 came out when I was getting older. So
Kind of like 2010.
Yeah.
2008. Somewhere around there.
So I think the Santa Claus I've grown more fond of over the past couple of years, the original first one. And one thing that I really like about it that I noticed a lot this time around is that Tim Allen's character, Scott Calvin, he is not the most likable character when you're introduced to him. Like he's not the best father by any means.
Burning a turkey.
Burning a turkey. he doesn't really show a lot of initiative to be like intentional with his son, and he's pretty mean in a funny way, sometimes to like the new stepdad and just to, I think, life in general. Like he's not the nicest person. You wouldn't think of this guy being Santa Claus. But I think that's where the really cool thing comes in, is like it's showing the story of an unlikely person basically turning into someone who brings so much joy to a lot of people. And I like that character dynamic. I like how that actually changed a lot of who he was. And it was actually a lot due to his son. Like, I think after a while, if I'm correct, like once they come back from the North Pole, he's still kind of not sure if that was real. Like he thinks it was a dream.
Yeah.
But his son, he's like, that was real. My dad is Santa Claus now. I'm telling everyone. And so...
Me, if my dad were Santa Claus.
Yeah. And so, there's this really cool dynamic where the son is really believing in his dad. And it's not this thing where Scott Calvin he feels like he has to do this now because of his son, because it shows deliberately throughout the whole movie he's trying to not be Santa as his transformation is happening. Like he's getting big, he's growing a beard, all these things are happening. He's trying not to be Santa, but there comes a point where he accepts it in a very, I think, appropriate manner. And it has a lot to do with his son, I think, because his son believed in him and his son kept believing in this person that his dad could be. And I really liked that because there was a moment where Scott really accepted this new reality. And it's kind of a pretty crazy reality if you actually think about it in a real life scenario, But for the movie's sake and for the Christmas spirit's sake, it was really heartwarming. And it, at the core of it, regardless of the Santa story, regardless of the Christmas storyline, it's just a really solid story about a father and his son, and really good things happen. Some bad things happen, like Santa dying, but
brushed over, by the way.
Yeah,
at the beginning of the movie. Yeah,
but like they go on this adventure together, and really good things come out of it, is what I was trying to say. And I really like that. Their relationship at the beginning of the movie, as opposed to the end of the movie, is completely different, and it's for the better by the end of the movie.
I definitely think it has the best vibes of the trilogy. The third movie kind of gets back into it when he reverts back to regular old Scott Calvin, but it's just a lot of the movie takes place in the real world, quote unquote. Whereas 2 and 3 are all in the North Pole
Mostly, yeah.
Yeah, and his son's not really in the third movie.
Doesn't he have to get married in the second one? Isn't it like
yeah, dude, the second
Santa
one,
Claus with an E at the end.
Yeah.
The desanctification process has begun. That's what what's his name says.
Head elf. Or, no, assistant to the head elf.
Curtis. Yeah. Santa
He's
Claus
head elf.
2. Santa Claus 2 is a certified classic for me too. But yeah, that's my movie recommendation.
Nice. So I still don't even know what I'm going to say. I've been thinking about this.
Every movie Wes has ever seen.
One thing I forgot to say in the last one was that the Penguin finished, and the Penguin I've already had twice as one of my recommendations, but it finally finished, and that show was legitimately great. I already talked about it at length on the other two, so I won't get too deep into it.
S tier,
yeah. I mean, that was
Penguin tier, if you will.
Mwah, perfect. One of the best miniseries I've seen in a while. So I'm thinking. So we all went to see a movie together a couple weeks ago.
We did.
And
there's photographic evidence.
There's photographic evidence on our Instagram page, which I don't ever see because I don't have Instagram. But
we'll leave it up to you to decide who's who.
Yes, before the face reveal.
Until we know who Wesley is.
I guess you could watch the shorts and figure out who's me. But anyway, we went to see Bonhoeffer, Pastor, Spy, Assassin.
Not lame, by the way.
Not a lame title that we talked about. But yeah, I mean, I thought it was good. I would recommend seeing it. It was a strong lead performance. I don't know the fellow's name that played Bonhoeffer, but Bonhoeffer was a church leader and theologian, pastor in Germany when the Nazis rose to power. And the whole movie is basically about him trying to like get the church to like not get these people in power, but then he fails because, you know, he's outnumbered and there's so many people that put the Nazis in power. And basically the church speaking out against the Nazis ends up getting them persecuted and killed and thrown in jail and all of these things. So he's basically like on the run, but also trying to make an impact when he can and gaining influence and making a difference, rescuing. I think there's a scene where they like rescue some Jews and get them to Switzerland. Mm-hmm. You know, there's a lot of scenes of him like learning how to like, I don't know, it explores his past and how he like really learns like who God is. When he's at seminary, he has a friend and he learns how to have like real faith. And I don't know, it's a good like faith-based movie, but it's not like so corny and cheesy that it's like you can't watch it like a lot of Christian movies are. You know, I think it's
more of a biography / historical account.
It's like a biographical movie for sure. Yeah. You know, I don't think it's a perfect movie by any means. You know, I think there's one too many like one-liners in it that just felt a little bit like, is this guy like an action hero? Like, what is this? But
I mean, if I'm not mistaken, most of this taken directly from like his memoirs.
It could be taken from his memoirs, but like when you formulate a screenplay and your main character is constantly just giving one-liners, you're like, all right. You know, I agree with your quotes. You know, it's just like, let's have a believable conversation here. But other than that, like I thought it was a well-paced movie, interesting movie, emotional movie that I would recommend seeing. So Bonhoeffer, Pastor, Spy, Assassin, and The Penguin, 2 very different movies. Mm-hmm. The Penguin, viewer discretion advised. But Bonhoeffer, I mean, that's fine. You can take your kids to see it. So.
Your kids might cry a lot.
I was going to say, I don't know.
You might cry a lot as the adult.
I don't know if I would take kids to
Well,
see
it's like, there's heavy themes. There's like, maybe
especially the ending.
It's a very heavy movie.
It's a PG-13 movie. So like,
if your kids are older, I think it's okay.
There's nothing like
13.
That's like teenagers though.
But I think it's a good movie for you to take your like, even like teenagers or preteens, because I think they'll think it's a thoughtful movie, thought-provoking movie. So.
It very is a thought-provoking movie.
So, recommendations done.
Nice.
Excellent.
Excelente.
So, maybe this is the time where we figure out how to close a podcast appropriately.
Yes.
We sing a goodbye song.
No, we're not going to sing.
How we appreciate each other.
Or we sing a song that tells people where they can find us online.
Sing a song, Mr. Asher, because you have the links in front of you.
Smash like and hit subscribe and push notification bell.
Comment and subscribe.
Am I doing it right? Press like and smash comment.
Follow
below.
And tell all your friends.
Yes. Share it with your friends and
sing a song of sharing.
Boost the algorithm for
with
us.
all your friends.
Let's see if I can remember these socials by heart.
Do you want to do them? I'll let you do them, but
you need to correct me if they're wrong.
I'll fact check you.
It's so Google. It's or Gmail. It's on the Slate pod at gmail.com.
Yes.
Nice. Send us emails, please. We want emails. Somebody talk to us. YouTube is just on the Slate podcast, right?
Yes.
Or pod, something like that.
Podcast.
Literally, what you're watching here, just like click on our channel.
Unless you're on Spotify.
And if you're on Spotify, then yeah, I guess. Or Apple. Yeah. Which, if you're on one of those, you don't need to find us because you're already there.
Yeah.
Same thing with YouTube.
Yeah.
So, on the Slate pod.
What's our Instagram?
Instagram. Oh, shoot. On the Slate Pod. Cast.
Yes.
Okay. So Instagram's the different one. It's Cast.
Yeah. And these are all linked in the show notes too,
Yeah.
to make it easy for you guys. You can just click on the linkity dink.
Linkity dink. Click on the link.
And yes, next time we're going to... Oh, should we tell them what movie we're watching for our next deep dive?
We kind of... It was referenced twice in this podcast.
Maybe let's save it.
All right.
We'll let them figure it out. It was referenced twice. Sort of. Indirectly.
Red one.
No!
Forget what we were going to do. Let's do
Elf
that.
again!
All right. This has been the On the Slate Movie Podcast. I'm Wesley.
I'm Jason.
And I'm Asher.
Everyone take care. Have a Merry New Year. And God bless.